about what we've learned over the last couple of weeks and how to navigate what a Republican-led Congress under Speaker Mike Johnson looks like. What I just went through what I learned. What did you learn from watching the speakers vote and watching the last couple of weeks with Elon Musk and Trump and everything that happened?
I learned more in the 5 minutes after the vote than I ever want to know, where Mike Johnson stood in the well of the House and attributed a prayer to Thomas Jefferson, which is a bald-faced lie, okay? A bald-faced lie. So they started with a lie, they're going to continue to lie, and they're going to end with a lie. So let's be very forceful and let's be very upfront here. And the billionaire class in this country has exercised such power that they got rid of the cartoonists at the Washington Post, okay, where they're having editorial sway over a cartoon that runs. I grew up with Conrad and Erbach. I studied Thomas Nash. What David Shipley, what happened under his watch is a disgrace to journalism in America. I don't know how that guy could possibly get up in the morning.
She quit, to be clear. She quit, and she made a statement because she
quit because they let her quit, because they wouldn't run a cartoon.
That's right.
I don't blame her for quitting, all right? Well, if you're a journalist, if they sit here at MSNBC and tell you you can't say anything bad about the Trump tax cuts because executives might get them, you're going to walk out the door.
That's right. Well, no one's telling me that, fortunately. I can trash the tax cuts as much. Let me ask you, let me just go back to Congress, because this is an interesting part, and I think it doesn't get enough attention about how they can be part of the opposition. Kristen Welker this morning actually asked Senator Chuck Schumer about your op-ed. He seemed to agree with you. He gave his thoughts on what Democrats can do differently on the economy moving forward, which I think everybody's thinking about. I want to play that and talk about it with you.
We talked about the mechanics of the legislation and the details of the legislation, and we really didn't show the kind of empathy and concern to average, or show enough of it, to average working families. So what we're going to do is spend a lot of time talking to working families, showing them how much we care about them, and not just talk about legislation, but talk about the conditions that have made so many working families worried about their futures.
That sounds pretty good to me. We'll see how it's implemented. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think there's always a reason I kind of have some affection for Senator Schumer. And what he is he understands on the fly that we're not communicating, but we need benchmarks to tell people we care about them. Hey, America needs a raise. Let's raise this thing to $15 an hour. Workers are getting the short end of the stick here. Let's ask these billionaires to pay the tax rate that they paid during the most prosperous era in the United States, the 1990s, and contribute to young people having a future in this country. Let's protect a pregnant woman that works at the Walmart in Ponchatoula, Louisiana, who already has 2 kids and would have an economic and social burden that is unimaginable. Let's stand up for these people. Let's show these people that we stand up for them. And by the way, it's not just them. Everybody in America wants working people to make some more money than they do. Everybody in America wants the rich to pay their fair share. I say everybody, that's an exaggeration. Most Americans. And most Americans want to give women and families the protection that they had under Roe v. Wade. This is not easy, people. This is really pretty simple, and we just have to accentuate this and drive it home.
Let me ask you about something I've been thinking a lot about. I mean, one of the things you write in your piece, and this struck my mind, got me thinking too, is to Democratic presidential hopefuls, your auditions for 2028 should be based on 2 things. 1, how authentic you are in the economy, and 2, how well you deliver it on a podcast. Now, the mechanisms and delivery mechanisms, I think, is a really important question. But I want to ask you about the other piece, because one of the things that strikes me sometimes about Democrats is that they talk in consultant DC speak. Right? That it becomes like poll-tested language that people are reading off of. How do you break people of that? Or do people just have to do it themselves?
Well, I think the best way to, is they say in the Marine Corps that there's 3 ways to lead: by example, and by example. And I think people like you, who have considerable experience in this, who was spokesperson for the White House, by doing this, or maybe somebody like me, who people say, well, that guy's kind of been around a long time, maybe we should listen to him, is don't talk in that jargonistic language. if you remember during the 92 campaign when I said the economy's stupid, I was talking to all of the geniuses in the campaign. And I was telling them, who were all more educated and smarter than I was, don't be too smart here, okay? Let's just be authentic and to the point. So I think people like you and I can bring this home by example. And don't use that idiotic NPR jargon when you're talking to voters.
We got to de-academic. I mean, we love academics, but we got to make it less academic, less ivory tower. I'm here with you. I'm just like editing.
One thing I'm good at is dumbing it down.
I mean, all same. We got to keep working at it. There's so many things I want to ask about. We got to talk more again at some point soon about how both of our former bosses like to make people mad, and that's part of how they won. But we'll have to have you come back to talk about that. James Carville,
anytime,
always love
girlfriend, anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up ahead of another anniversary.